Hey all, here are OS Reviews. In this day and age, there is an increasing amount of smart home appliances, whether it's TVs, lights, even smart robot vacuum cleaners, and curtains that are connected to the internet. And although it's really cool that we can control those products using an app on our smartphone, sometimes it's still a little bit tedious. You have to open up the application, find the correct one, and then toggle through these settings. Sometimes we want just a shortcut for more quickly turning it on, as well as setting up a more convenient, tactile way of instantly using that appliance. And that's where Flic comes into play. We've actually seen their smart button, the original one, a few years back. The concept is actually quite simple. It is just a key that you can mount anywhere using a sticky. And once you set it up using your smartphone, you're able to program different commands that will trigger whenever you press on this button. For example, turning on the lights, playing and pausing music. And later on, Flic did come out with other accessories, and really the subject of today's video is going to be their brand new Flic Twist. That provides even more controls. Not only can you press down on it, but you can also twist on it like a dial. They also have a new hub that I thought was quite interesting. So this hub actually uses Wi-Fi instead of Bluetooth, and basically it will now communicate and talk with these buttons. So you no longer have to rely on Bluetooth to separately communicate with each button if you're trying to change its command, since Bluetooth really works only within a range of 10 meters or 33 feet, so it increases the connectivity range and just makes it a little easier to set up and manage everything. A final look at the hardware before we dive into the performance and software. Again, this is the hub. It needs to be plugged into power at all times for it to function, since there is no built-in battery. Makes sense because it's always 24/7 connected to the internet. It doesn't have a button of its own, by the way, but the design language is really clean and reminiscent of their other products. And now onto that brand new Flic Twist. There's also a quick user guide located on the side that you can pull out of the sleeve, and there are different ways you can mount it. There's a built-in magnet that you can use to attach it to a metal surface like a fridge. Of course, you can also use the included 3M sticky adhesive to stick it onto a hard surface, or there's a wall mount with screws as well. Otherwise, it is a little bit larger, and as a result, it accommodates a standard AAA battery slot on the back instead of a coin-based cell. So benefits here are that these are going to be a lot more standard, perhaps easier to replace, lasting also for about 2 years before you have to swap it out. You're able to pull off this plastic end cap for the mountable screw threads. And there's also some soft touch rubber feet as well if you're just setting it down onto a table, for example. Has a very satisfying kind of sensation, almost similar to a mechanical keyboard knob in terms of you get that dial control for precise adjustments for things like brightness, dimming the lights higher and lower, changing the speaker to be louder versus more quiet. Not to mention, there's still that classic button in the middle that you can tap on to trigger another command. And what's really cute is that Flic also packages this with their sticker sheets, so you're able to further kind of decorate and also make it easier for you to remember what action you've programmed on these buttons. It's going to help other folks that are unfamiliar get a better sense of what this is corresponding to, because there is no physical screen on the top of any of these buttons. And this is a company that is based in Sweden, hence why all of the design is so minimalistic and clean. Granted, if they do make a pro version in the future, I think that would be really cool. For example, if it's clad in metal and has even a OLED screen on the front for showing off different icons that you can push over, that would just be awesome. But of course, it would be a more expensive button as well. Now moving into a quick look at the companion app. After opening things up, you'll be greeted to 2 tabs, either connecting to the companion hub, or you can directly use your phone via Bluetooth to pair with the buttons. But in our case, let's set up the hub first, and we now have found the hub here. We can set up a name for it and then tap on continue. Afterwards, it will then pair to your Wi-Fi router to connect to the internet. Afterwards, it will be finished. So very fast process, only just a few moments. We can go ahead and add the buttons to the hub. So I'm going to tap on this key. So we're prompted to press and hold on the Flic until it connects. Now we have one button completed, but we can add other ones down below here as well. But let's say we want to just take a closer look at the twist. We can tap inside to take a look at the corresponding controls, including the aforementioned twist, push and twist at the same time, as well as a push and a double tap can all be triggered for different commands, as you can see there. So we can go ahead and tap on these corresponding 4 commands to set up 4 different shortcuts. For example, changing the brightness or the color of smart lights that you have around. If desired, there are more advanced controls. For example, you have to twist it at 6 o'clock versus 12 o'clock to trigger those shortcuts. Aside from the twist motion, you can set up Alexa commands, for example, telling you the weather or the news close for the day whenever you tap on that key if you are paired to your Amazon account. Other actions here and devices that it can connect to include Chromecast, products from IKEA even, or smart lights, Microsoft Power Automate, Nanoleaf smart lights, Philips Hue, Slack post, other kind of social media services, Spotify. And what's cool is you also have some slightly more generic ones as well, including internet request, in which you can use HTTP to use a get, post, put, or delete request yourself. For example, if there's a web service or RSS feed that you're trying to update using this button, which isn't available in the default list, you can do a little bit of light programming to add it in yourself. What I will say though is the commands for the push services do seem to be more exhaustive than the aforementioned twist. Even though we have those basic forms of interaction that we saw there from before, the actual protocols that it supports are mainly restricted to IKEA as well as Philips Hue as the type of lighting that you can use to control brightness, and volume is for Sonos devices. So a lot of those other options like Nanoleaf for lighting, smart tile lights, as well as, for example, Spotify music, are a little bit more restricted to just the push services. So hopefully they can add that to the twist command as well and make this part just further grow in the future. So in this demo, we have a Nanoleaf smart light tile in front of us. I'm going to connect that to the click command. And for this smart light, you're able to turn it on, off, as well as toggle the color as well. So you can either choose the red color, green, blues, all the shades of the rainbow, in fact, can be fine tweaked directly from the app itself, including the white light. So let's say I'm satisfied and want to tap once to turn it on. I'm going to add a panel, search for it, and it's found the smart shape here. I'm going to tap to authenticate, press on the power key of the panel for 5 seconds to pair. So let's go ahead and do that. Tap on here for 5 seconds. And after a couple of seconds here, we see LED lights start to blink. And afterwards, the action has been saved. So pushing right now will turn the panel on and keep the current color. But now a double tap will instead turn the entire thing off, as you can tell there. So it's a pretty fast process. There's not too much latency or lag as long as you have a reliable enough internet connection. Again, everything here connected via Wi-Fi. I can instead put this by the side of a bed or an office table, and the benefit now is, of course, we can use this control anywhere around the house to turn on the lights. I don't have to continue to come over to it and tap on the power key, but instead I can be in a different room altogether, tap on it to quickly turn it on from a further distance, which is going to be a lot more comfortable. That being said, although brightness control isn't going to be available using the twist function, you can actually use it to change the color of the light. So you can tap on Scene Blender under Advanced and choose a point on the twist to trigger that motion. For example, I'm going to choose the 12 o'clock position. That means every time that the twisting motion here has exceeded the 12 o'clock mark, it will then trigger that command. And I can then go into actions, again find the Nanoleaf, and from here I can choose, instead of turning it on and off, which we already have, something else such as other, using a different effect such as Be Productive, Beat Drop, some of those ones which are taken directly from the Nanoleaf main app we're able to choose. Now this is saved, and every time that I've exceeded the 12 o'clock mark, it's going to go into the Be Productive lighting effect, which is going to be this kind of atmospheric changing color of blues and whites. As you can tell, there is going to be a playlist by default. And of course, I can still tap on it to turn the entire thing on and off, which means you can save up to 4 different commands. For example, going into 4 different effects or 4 different colors, depending on the position of the dial that you're twisting it at and that particular mark. So kind of neat in that sense, but again, having the kind of dimmable function added over to the app, I think would be perhaps even more useful. As for the second mode of pairing directly with the phone instead of via the Wi-Fi gateway hub, one thing to note here is you aren't able to pair the Flic Twist using this method by Bluetooth to the phone. You can only pair the buttons, which are more simple. So this new product can only work in conjunction with their hub. Since it's connected directly to this particular phone, you can also ring a chime on the phone. Interestingly, under Smart Home, the roster is a little bit more exhaustive than via the hub method. So here we can also control Bose speakers, Ecobee speakers, which were both missing from the previous list, in addition to LG WebOS, basically LG Smart TVs, Shazam Internet Radio, as well as controlling volume. Even YouTube instantly launching into the app can all be triggered. Other useful utility functions include turning on and off Wi-Fi on your phone, as well as turning on and off the flashlight, triggering a Google Voice call, hanging up a call, or muting the microphone if you are in a conference, for example, setting up an alarm, a Pomodoro timer, You can even have it set a emergency SMS text message with your current location whenever you tap on this button in case you are feeling threatened, under fun. It can even simulate a buzzer, so you can tap on it. Of course, it doesn't have a speaker on the button itself, so it would be playing back on your phone speaker, but kind of a sound effect, as well as triggering a fake phone call if you want to pretend that you're busy, a fart generator, even a counter. So every time that you click on the button, it will increase the count by 1. Perhaps if you're trying to track the attendance of a class, if you're a teacher. In addition to simulating a particular keyboard button or mouse command, like clicking, can also be triggered and programmed on the button if you're in the direct connection mode. It can even record audio whenever you tap on that button. You see this animation whenever you tap on the key, and there's also a green indication light once you've successfully paired. In this case, we've set it to be the flashlight, and you can tell that clicking on this will instantly turn it on in the dark. And here are the controls that you have for using it as a selfie remote control, let's say taking images, or you can set it to recording video, either via the front or the rear camera. You can even set up chains of actions. For example, first it can find your phone and then trigger the flashlight. Perhaps a better example might be step 1, jump into Spotify. Step 2, play back the music. Step 3, increase the volume to 80%. Something like that. So it helps you save a couple of steps into one single action. So ironically enough, the direct phone connection is a little bit more well-versed in terms of tons of applications that you can set it to, different shortcuts, and pretty much any program you can set it as a shortcut whenever you tap on it, as long as it's installed on your phone. So a little bit more versatile there compared to the Gateway Hub, which is a bit more limited. In that way, I do kind of wish they would allow you to also pair the Twist directly by Bluetooth to the phone as another method of interaction. And by the way, yes, it is magnetic, has a pretty strong hold. In fact, you can pop it onto any metal surface, any fridge. It holds its position even as you're rotating and tapping on it. And although we showed the Flic Hub Mini in this video, there's also a slightly more deluxe Hub LR that we checked out in a prior video. This one is a little bit more expensive, but it also features 5 GHz Wi-Fi bands and also features a built-in IR and audio jack. So you can potentially control even more devices using it like a universal remote, which are some sensors missing on the Hub Mini, but it's a little bit more compact and cost-effective as a result. Flic also claims that other colored variants may be available in the future, including a frost white and a matte black finish as well. The company also claims that in coming days, with more future software updates, additional services and protocols will eventually be added over, including from brands like Huawei, iRobot Smart Vacuum Cleaner, Comcast, Xiaomi, as well as Google Home. And that will be exciting since it should vastly expand the number of smart appliances that's compatible with the ecosystem. So that is more or less it as far as our hands-on look at kind of the newest Flic Twist smart button, and I think it is a very elegant piece of hardware. The idea behind it I think is excellent. Being able to control this with the twist motion opens up even more possibilities. There are just slight quirks in terms of the software, in terms of having even more support for additional protocols and services that I do hope we'll continue to see down the line, and it will become even more versatile. But for what it is, I think these are still quite clever concept of smart buttons that you're able to program shortcuts that can simplify your workflow, automate things, and add just a little bit more of that mechanical feel back into the way that we interact with our smart home appliances. So you can check out more details if you're interested in the links down below, but for now that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the Smart Flic Twist.